it.
I'll move into just if I struggle, I can move in there. I'll just have to put a background on.
Cool. So for anyone joining now, we're just discussing how bad Casey's finding his connection. Just for clarity, he's moving house tomorrow, so it's not a bad day for your connection to get rough.
Yeah, don't cancel with Sky. I think they cut off everything straight away.
Well, don't be. I have problems with my internet in general, so at least you're looking at it and going, okay, I'm moving tomorrow, so this gets better. I have no plans of moving anywhere, so I'm just dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. I tried downloading a movie on the weekend, and it said it was going to take 14 hours to download. I was like, that's like 6 times how long the movie is.
That's very early 2000s there, Darren.
Exactly. Dial-up. It's like dial-up. How are we doing on the participant? I'll just give it another minute. How is everyone finding the weather? That's usually the British thing to discuss.
It is. The weather is very appropriate to the first day of lockdown, isn't it? When it went out this morning and the world was ending, it seemed, around Clapham. So
yeah, I went for my first walk in a few days because last time I spoke to you, Casey, I said I'd done some exercise, and I've kind of not done it for a few days.
Yeah.
I lapsed.
I can't tell you how happy that makes Mira and I.
So I went out for a walk this morning. I picked the worst morning to go out because it was dreadful, and there was a car went for a puddle and almost splashed me. So yeah, that kind of signs up for what.
And then you wish you were back home.
Exactly. So that'll be the last time I leave the house till probably Monday.
Good.
Cool.
Get into a safe space.
Exactly. Mate. So let me share my screen so everyone can see what we're going to be going through. So can you guys see my screen? Because you're the only ones that can tell me whether it's coming up. Cool. So what we're going to be doing today is going through designing the ultimate onboarding retention process. So we've got Miriam and Casey. Unfortunately, Dan has some tech issues, so he's not able to join today, and then I'll be moderating it. So normal housekeeping. So if you want to ask questions, if you can ask them in the Q&A section, then that means that we can pick it up and then we can answer them organically as we go. You'll be invited to a new Zoom webinar every day. So obviously this is day 3, so you only need to look for 2 more links. But they're sent out in the afternoon. If you have any issues, if you email hello@hackerjob, we can sort that out. And then as always, tell your friends. So you'll find it on YouTube to listen to afterwards, but the Twitter handle is @hackerjob_co. LinkedIn, we post on there, and they, again, the hashtags of TRT and Tech Recruitment Takeover. Wine tasting, I said this on the session on Tuesday, I don't even drink wine and I still come to the wine tasting, so make sure you attend. It's just a good place to chat to like-minded people in the industry, and if you like wine, they apparently are quite good wines. My girlfriend tells me that they're good, so I'll take her as the basis, and it's absolutely free, and then it's virtually done with us. So today's agenda will be going through putting yourself in the shoes of a candidate, pre-onboarding tactics, how to onboard new starters when working remotely, retention techniques and takeaways, and then keeping your culture alive. Cool. Let me unshare so that everyone then can see all our beautiful faces. So I'm going to throw the first question to you, Casey. So I guess let's put you in the shoes of a candidate. When you're walking in on that first day, what gives you that lovely fluffy feeling and makes you feel like you don't regret your decision?
Good question to start off. The fluffy feeling. So I think for any new starter, it doesn't matter how confident you are or how experienced you might be within sort of the work. You're still going to have those day one nerves. So a big thing for me personally, and I would imagine be a lot of other people in the same shoes, is wanting to feel welcome. So people coming up to you saying hello. The little things like knowing your equipment's there and that's set up. Ironically, I remember my first day at Contino 3.5 years ago when we were a small startup. and receiving my MacBook in its big box. Never used a Mac before, but honestly, I just lost all functions of my hands and brains and couldn't get into this box. And it felt like everyone in the office was looking at me going, who the hell is this? Who the hell is this person? So little things like that. So that if you do have those first day nerves, they can be eradicated as well. Having a plan, I think, is massively important. I think me and Mira will talk about it today. But we'll call it that sort of dead time where you're sort of looking around, you're not quite sure what to do next. You don't want to go up and maybe bug someone. So having a plan is massively important. Those induction aspects of it are going to be really, really important as well. So yeah, that makes, I think, to answer the question, that makes me feel fluffy inside is making sure that everything's kind of pre-planned and you know what you're going on to next. People are coming up and saying hello to you and you're not sort of left to your own devices and, you know, made to feel like you are a bit of an outsider, even though essentially you are on that first day.
Yeah. Mira, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, completely agree with everything Casey said. And I think it's obviously nice to have people come up to you and say hello and feel welcomed. And I think everything that's happening in our remote world now makes that even more difficult. So I know we'll probably touch on how we can try and combat this later on. That fluffy feeling, I'd also say having that structure, again, what Casey said, having an induction plan, at least for the first few days, to know who you're meeting, what you have to do, is there basic training you need to do. I think having a really clear idea on that and having a functioning laptop. I've joined organizations before where on the first day I've been left with no equipment and then twiddling my thumbs, not knowing what exactly to do, and, you know, staring around trying to, find some kind of comfort. But I'd also say it would be what I think the great thing about me joining dunnhumby specifically was I was actually asked at the beginning what I would like to know, which was quite a change. And it was quite a nice question, actually, because I was able to input what my induction looked like. So I really wanted a download of everything that we do within the business, within recruitment, and then early careers specifically. And I wanted that really to be covered in my day one before I did anything else. So I think sometimes even asking a new joiner the question of what they want to achieve from their first couple of days is a nice way to be welcomed into a business.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, but both of your experiences. So I don't know if Mark, our CEO, is on the line, but I remember my first day at Hacker Job, not at the fault of either him and Raz, two co-founders, but my MacBook didn't work. And it scared me a lot. Yeah, not a great start, but luckily I'm almost in my fourth year, so it obviously didn't put me off too much. But I agree both and kind of echo what you guys are saying, that I think my opinion is that structure in those first couple of days is pivotal, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end of your first week and thinking, did I achieve what I needed to achieve, and what do people think about me? Because although everyone's got a probation period in there that's a few months long, so you're not going to get judged on week one. Internally, you're probably thinking, how have I been judged after that first week? So if you know what you're supposed to have done, it means you can do a better job on that. And then I guess touching on the pre-onboarding. So I think a good pre-onboarding is as important as that onboarding. So what tactics have you got in place in your own companies to ensure that candidates get the best experience even before they start?
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I think it's really important, especially with looking after early careers, because we usually are recruiting a whole year in advance. So to be able to engage with our offers and keep them warm for a full year is really important. So we've recently implemented Onboarder, which kind of automates our onboarding and keep warm activity, so we can drip feed pieces of information to our new starters around updates at dunnhumby, key pieces of information, maybe a video of our office if we ever get back there. So it's a really great way of automating how we can share information to our new joiners. So that's been one great thing that's helped us. I'd also say especially for the early careers, graduates and interns, we've also hosted some pre-joining webinars. And again, that's to supplement our onboarder automated activity, but just to have a little bit of a human touch to the onboard pre-joining process as well. So we had a kind of pre-joining social where our grads got to meet each other beforehand. But I think it's so important to share information and updates, make them feel like they're part of the business before they have joined, because especially with grads and interns having to wait such a long time to join the business, we want them to feel as part of the business from as soon as they've signed their contract, essentially.
Makes sense. Casey, you're probably going at it from a different angle because the seniority is quite different from what Mira looks after.
Yeah, it's different ends of the spectrum. Love the idea of a pre-joining a get together. I think that's massive. I think any recruiter who's recruited will know the pain of, you've done all the hard work of attracting, that one candidate, just for them to sort of fall out of process at the last moment is absolutely heartbreaking. And unfortunately, we always have to ask the question: what could we've done better on that side? But certainly now in a new remote world. So what we have at Contino, so we've created today an employee experience roadmap. So pretty much going. So can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you did tell me you came back in.
Brilliant. Oh no, nightmare. Yes, so the candidate and employee experience roadmap. So this fundamentally, in the context of this will start from the minute we make an offer, all the way through pretty much to day one. So what we do on this roadmap, we map out every single stage or interaction a candidate/employee would have. And as a people ops function, so people ops within our organisation, so that's traditionally HR. So people ops and talent will review this kind of quarterly, which is vitally important at the moment, because same as a lot of organisations, as we're onboarding remotely, we're learning as we go along. So once we've created this roadmap, each candidate you could say is placed into sort of a content funnel. So there'd be drip fed information around Contino, so what to expect, who they'll be meeting, projects, anything which we can keep them engaged. I guess the difference in terms of our work, we could have people who will sign a contract to be starting in 2 weeks, or we could have someone on a 4-month notice period as well. So we have to keep a part of that as bespoke as possible, but just make sure that, I guess, we're keeping them engaged as much as possible. So each candidate will be sent a welcome pack with goodies. This is normally 10 days before joining, which is brilliant. So it'll be a signed postcard from the team, and it will have the forever loved Contino swag bag in there, which will be hats, socks, t-shirts. We introduce sort of colouring books and stuff for the family. We're predominantly a technology kind of company, so the swag part of it is vitally important, which I'm sure any sort of other tech recruiters or HR professionals sort of listening will completely kind of get that. They'll be contacted through different welcome texts, but I guess the main thing is being able to measure that journey from offer all the way through to onboarding. So there's a number of touch points, human touch points as well, which Mira suggested, which is vitally important. And keeping it as human as possible. Love the idea of Mira saying that it's automated as well, which, if you do get an opportunity to look at that, can make your lives a lot different and keep human touch, which is vitally important.
And for anyone that's not come across Contino before, the swag that you get at Contino is pretty unworldly. Like, it's so good. I went and met some of them for lunch, and they were all head to toe in gear. So you do well if you work there on swag.
It is. I'm sure it gets a little bit annoying. The girlfriend has it's a 1-in 1-out policy at the moment. Okay. And as we move into a new house tomorrow, there was a massive coal a couple of days ago when I was in the office. And I was like, what's this bag full of Contino stuff? It's going down the charity shop. So, the guys and girls absolutely love it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw a curveball question at you both. I think especially you with your stuff, Mira, but it's going to be relevant to what you said a second ago, Casey, with some people having 3 or 4 month notice periods. It's quite interesting to look at, because companies evolve and companies change over time. So in the space of a year, quite a lot could change in a business. So I'm not saying that anything has changed in your own businesses, but it's probably something to see if we can get your thoughts on. If there's a massive change in your business, do you as a process make people aware of, okay, this has recently happened, like I don't know if it's like investing in other businesses or whether it's like merger and acquisitions and those kind of things? Is that something you do at the moment, or have you got any thoughts on it?
Shall I go ahead first, Casey? Yes.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. The great thing about having kind of an automated like onboarding platform allows us to input those pieces of information quite quickly. So when dunnhumby has acquired new clients, or we've won a new piece of business in a new geography, that's been a great way to share that with potential new joiners, and to get them feeling a bit more excited about what we're doing. I guess it's also pieces of information that even some of our colleagues like won't necessarily come across on our intranet, but I think being able to share that with new joiners just hopefully creates a knowledge kind of tick, but also a bit more of a sense of belonging for feeling included.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely nailed it on the head there. That sense of belonging and being included. I think it's even through the attraction phase, that to feel like they're already part of whichever company you're representing. So from Contino, and even more so once they've signed that contract, because fundamentally we don't call that the candidate experience anymore. We actually call it the employee experience, all the way through to, I guess, boots on the ground. We went through an acquisition pretty much 12 months ago, which was, I guess, kind of interesting, because as a company, we still class ourselves as a startup. I don't know if legally we can call it anymore, but obviously that would have turned a few heads with people in process or candidates we're speaking to. And the main thing is just to be as transparent as possible. And I think one of the things that I mentioned is us as a people ops and talent function, the fact that we have daily stand-ups and weekly stand-ups, but quarterly we review a lot of these kind of processes, and collecting the data through surveys and the one-to-one meetings gives us the data in terms of how we need to, I guess, react and feedback. So that's one of the, I guess one of the big takeaways from that is be as transparent as possible, and keep reviewing. Just because, this year's a perfect example, just because something worked absolutely brilliant in January, pretty sure it's not working now. So yeah, keep reviewing, keep changing, and don't be afraid to try something new, really.
And one question from the Q&A from Sally, and Casey, I'll throw this one to you first, just so everyone knows who's going to go first. Isn't there a danger that sharing pre-onboarding materials disadvantages people who don't have time to read and research, and can cause more anxiety? I don't know what your thoughts be on that.
Yeah, no, that's completely agree with that. I think I used the words drip fed, which probably not the right term. It's content there which, if they want to read, they can kind of get involved with. And I'm sure one of the questions earlier will be how we're keeping people engaged at the moment. But certainly at the moment, there's certainly Zoom overload and quiz overload and stuff like that. So there'll only be a couple of bits which will be prerequisites, but as I say, it's stuff there which we know from the data we collect that the majority of senior candidates who we bring on want to be involved from an early date, so they can hit the ground running. But again, that we do a survey after 2 weeks of any candidate joining the organisation, and we collect that kind of data. So the reason why we've built our model to that is because the most amount of candidates who join want to be involved in that. I would recommend that. I'm sure most organisations do it, but the data will tell you exactly, I guess, how your candidates, would like to be dealt with during there, and be bespoke. We're dealing with human beings at the end of the day. No two of us are exactly the same. Jenna down the road, might not want to hear anything around Contino because she's so focused on her current kind of role. Someone else, Stuart, might be the opposite, and on day one wants to know exactly what he's getting involved in help from straight away. So yeah, there's obviously a happy balance there, but none of it's a prerequisite, and it's not hours and hours of paperwork. A lot of the content which we send over is quick, sharp kind of videos, which kind of keeps them engaged and reading up if they want to do. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Amazing. Mira, have you got any other thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much everything Casey said around having short, sharp pieces of information rather than read our financial report or anything just too long-winded that probably new joiners don't really want to or might not need to know. So I think around the data point as well, I think that's so important, because I guess having these processes and onboarding processes in place is redundant if they're not working. So it's so important to get feedback and hold surveys after you have a process in place to understand whether the engagement pieces of information were worthwhile. Was it too much? Was it too little? And we've been shaping that over the last year at dunnhumby to, I think we're in quite a good place now where I think it's now 4 points. We've got a 4.6 out of 5 rating in terms of the experience that new joiners are receiving. So that's increased quite a bit over the last year. So I think being able to get that data, share it to hiring managers to then say, maybe there's a little bit of work we need to do here, or sharing that within your HR teams as well. So collecting data, reviewing, changing if you need to, because more than any other time in the world, I think we need to be as fluid as possible.
Well, you got a thumbs up from Casey there, so you seem to be saying something right in that part. So the next question I was going to bring you on to kind of answers the next question in Q&A. So I think I told you this story a couple of weeks ago when we caught up in preparation for this webinar, but we brought someone new into the team recently, and I think we had planned originally that we were going to do like a physical onboarding because it's much easier to do it that way, and then everything changed again in the world as Boris likes to throw curveballs. So it meant the way we were on board changed again. So I guess we're now 7-8 months, where are we in the year, into this, into the COVID and working from home environment. So what have you changed in your own businesses when it comes to onboarding since this has happened? And Casey, if you take this one first.
Yeah, so there's tons. First and foremost, it constantly has to be a work in progress. But I think the key is the big area where we were massively sort of worried around was that kind of dead time. So us as a business, we were very big on championing our kind of culture, the fact that, you come to the office and you feel like you're at home and it's brilliant. And we were super proud of our office. And literally, from the minute we had to go to remote working, we were kind of, okay, we're really worried. So, the mission was, right, how do we keep people engaged and how do we make them feel welcome? Answering the first question. First and foremost, every Contini joining is now assigned to a point of contact or a buddy for 2 weeks. So this would normally be someone, so there'll be 2 people. This would normally be someone from the people ops or the talent representative who has built a relationship, bringing them into business. And then we'd also have someone assigned to them from a technology point of view, if we're talking about our delivery team bringing in. So that, their job, these are people who volunteer, who want to be involved in this, and they'll have a number of kind of touch points, during the day to answer any questions over Slack. Each starter has their own welcome lunch, virtual lunch on their first day, which is brilliant. So there'll be a set amount of people to join that. Other members of the whole organisation can drop in, which is excellent. That's evolving as well. We found at the start it was, really kind of awkward because there was people who hadn't actually seen each other for a little while, and then they were talking about, how their lockdown's going, and we hadn't actually, introduced ourselves properly to the candidate. We have a number of different coffees booked in there. We work to a squad model as well, which is probably quite keen to sort of point out. So as a consultancy, obviously we're on site with our customers and you're assigned to that squad. But if you're not on a particular project, you are part of Squad Zero. And luckily enough, we've had this in place before we were working remotely, and this has actually been a really kind of godsend to us. So you're automatically introduced into your own kind of team. So you feel part of something from day one until you go onto that kind of project. So pretty much straight away, you have a number of touch points around of work, meet members, process.
Internet starting to play up, Casey.
No.
While we wait,
window of 30 to 45 minutes. And normally, so
Mira, do you want to take the question just while we wait for Casey to come back? Do you want to take the question? Oh, there you go. He's dipped off. Do you want to take the question and then I can give my thoughts on it as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think it was really important to try and replicate the same type of process or same experience that we would normally have in person. So in a sense, we've tried to keep it relatively the same, but just taking everything virtual.
Yeah.
And I guess mainly from an early careers standpoint, we would traditionally have interns joining us over the summer. And there was a little bit of uncertainty at the time around whether we could go ahead with the program, just because we haven't launched or done anything virtually before, let alone manage a full program. So kind of, I guess a lot of what all of us might be feeling is that we have to be a little bit more creative, and we have to think of new processes and ways of doing things quite quickly, and not always having data or research behind you or any kind of experience of how some of these things are done. So very quickly we put together a kind of model for how we could run a virtual summer internship, which went really well, actually. So we had interns in the business for 8 weeks. And so I think that proved to us that we could do something virtually that was onboarding, program management, and offboarding. And very recently, we've introduced our new cohort of graduates into the business. So 19 graduates, obviously all starting on the same day. So one of the big challenges was really around kind of logistics, getting these graduates set up all at the same time. Getting them to use their machines, getting passwords out. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges, and can definitely take away a lot of learning from that. But I think on the whole, new joiners, whether they're graduates or probably senior kind of new joiners as well, are generally quite sympathetic and kind of can understand, what we're all going through and the challenges that we all might have around getting new joiners into the business.
Sure. Casey, do you want to finish your points? We're seeing the problems with remote working testamented by you there.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. We've picked up in day to have this webinar as a moving. I'm going to try and tether off my phone if we lose connection again.
Do you want me to pick up the point and then we can
How here last time, because I was actually talking and didn't realise.
So where we were up to was talking about that initial. Are you still there? You're frozen on my end again. Let me pick up the point and then we can let Casey bounce back. Or actually, it's more of a question for you, Mira. So you're talking about how the interns join the business. The way that you work, do they get assigned to people within the teams, and also do they get assigned to people sub-functionally or cross-functionally? So I think that's an interesting thing to look at. I was saying to you a couple of weeks ago that what I like is when companies are looking at how they can introduce across other areas, because you could just end up speaking to the people in your team, especially virtually, and not speak to anyone in other teams. So how does it work internally for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So just because they were with us for an 8-week program, we wanted them to be integrated within one specific team to really be able to add value and work on a specific project. So they were assigned to one specific team, but every week they were able to spend an hour getting to know another team, like through a lunch and learn session. And we also opened up a kind of Friday shadowing session. So if there was another team that they wanted to understand a little bit more about, that Friday afternoon would be kind of their opportunity to find out more. And I guess that was a lot of kind of work at the beginning to share, you know, what dunnhumby does, what teams we have on offer, what these teams do, and making sure that they have that information from the outset to make those decisions during their 2-month program.
Amazing. Casey, so where you were up to was you were talking about that introduction meal, and then you started cutting off, and we were getting every second word. So if you want to pick up from there, that'd be amazing.
Yes, sorry everyone. Yes. So yes, I think that was the new starter lunch, which is something which is it was vitally important for us. So a chance for the new joiner to meet as many people as possible. Alongside that, so we have coffees built in. We work in a squad model here at Contino, which is probably quite crucial to point out. So as a consultancy, if you're on a project delivering, that will be part of your squad, your own ecosystem. But if you're not on a project, you'll automatically be part of Squad Zero. And this was a little bit of a kind of a blessing in disguise that we'd set this up prior to lockdown, because automatically, if you're a new joiner, a new Contini, you're enrolled into a squad pretty much from day one. The squad catches up sort of 3 to 4 times per day. They're working on a number of internal projects, but it's a great way for you to feel like you're part of something from day one, which is vitally important. And again, you know, it offers a number of different touch points for you to feel at home pretty much from day one. Amazing.
And Mira, the next question, I'm going to throw it to you, but I think we probably need to adjust it slightly. I think what's interesting is those water cooler moments you don't get anymore. So it's, if you get a new starter, I remember when we were in the office on that first day that someone joined Hacker Job, I would make sure that at some point when they're going to get a coffee in the kitchen, I'd go get a coffee too and go have a conversation, because they may not be part of my team, so there may not necessarily be a touch point that I'm going to have with them naturally in a week. But those kind of water cooler moments have completely disappeared now. So how are you as a business, and I'll throw it to you afterwards, Casey, how are you both as businesses making sure that those water cooler moments aren't completely missed now?
Yeah, great question. I actually think in March, by the time we went into our first lockdown, sounds crazy. I was probably at dunnhumby for about 5 to 6 months. So I felt almost like a new joiner myself. Like don't think I'd fully integrated myself into the business, and those kind of little chats, water cooler moments, like in the kitchen, were actually really important to me. And I can especially feel that with a kind of a younger talent coming through, that's even more important for them. Yeah. So one of the things that actually, looking at the business itself, we launched kind of a chat, a coffee chat roulette for the whole business, which was really interesting. So we were able to end up speaking to someone from another team, another department that we would never normally spoken to. And then we actually ran that for HR as a department, which was really nice, just to be able to spend a bit of time talking to someone new. And I think that kind of replicated those nice chats you might be able to have randomly in the kitchen. We also have been getting involved in a lot of Zoom quizzes or kind of all company socials, which a couple of weeks ago we actually had our new graduates organising for us. Yes. And they've been working on raising money for a charity called Helping Hands, who support with feeding school children at the moment when maybe they can't get food. Nice. So we've been kind of encouraging our graduates to create something social, but also understanding the impact that we have on our world at the moment. I think it's such a difficult time in general, but I think it's nice to just stop and have a chat and just remember that while we are working at home and we have deadlines and we have projects that we need to achieve, we need to remember that we're not in the world, or not in the normal world that we would be in. And so having kind of a small 15-minute chat with a colleague is perfectly normal.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, some really good points there, Mira. From our case, we're very, very fortunate to work with some pretty awesome people. So pretty much from the first announcement of Boris saying please work remotely, there was a remote working social committee set up with a number of different people, and they had a very simple sort of license and freedom, and that was to come up and create with as many fun, silly, stupid but creative ideas in terms of how we can help each other. I think certainly the first time round it was scary. It's the first time anyone's had to gone through anything like this before. So how do we deal with it? So so we kind of put together this sort of mini squad. If you haven't got something like that in place at the moment, I'd highly recommend it. Brainstorming can be massively hard at the moment, especially if you're sat indoors for 12 hours a day and then someone says, I'll come up with an idea which is going to change. But you'll be surprised, for a 15-minute, 20-minute call, and people just, once you start talking and stuff, there's some really good ideas. So we've introduced a ton of cool events which people can or cannot attend. It's key to point out that some people have enjoyed lockdown. It's a chance to get on with their own things, who maybe don't necessarily thrive with tons of social interactions. But we've got to have a nice balanced approach, which hopefully gives people something out there to do. So we had pizza making as a company, which was brilliant. So we had pizza sets sent out to our guys and girls, and that was nice. So we split up into smaller groups, and we had an online kind of chef going through it with the cocktail making, yoga classes, which was brilliant. We had a pro golf coach come on and do a couple of seminars for the people who are in golfers. As I said, we're a tech company, so we've run loads of interesting like tech initiatives, smaller little tech days, external talks, giving our engineers something to talk around away from, I guess, the project they're working on, I guess, as they would do normally in the office or down the pub or having a coffee to share ideas, which is brilliant. We've had Wellness Wednesdays, which is, again, something a bit silly, but encouraging people, not encourage it, showcasing different things we can do to look after not just our physical health, but also our mental well-being, which is so important at the moment. We definitely quizzed as well, Mira. We went overboard on that. I think most of us were doing sort of a quiz a night. We're a young company as well, so we tried to run loads of initiatives, getting people's families involved as well, because we realised that the actual the working environment and the landscape of that had completely changed. So people were having Zoom calls in between changing nappies and stuff for the young family. So we created colouring books for people to fill out. We've spoken about the Contino swag, so we gave people the opportunity to design new t-shirts, which was really good. Again, opened up to kind of the families. Our American office top trumped on that side, and they actually ran a Contino's Got Talent, which which I hope no one's on the call. It was very cringe, but I tell you what, the engagement on it was absolutely amazing. And I think sort of 95% of their employees turned up. So there's loads of cool things. But I think the main thing is we've got this little social committee, and their job really is just to brainstorm, have fun for half an hour every 2 weeks, and come up with some ideas. They're not all going to be brilliant, but it does give us and every organisation a chance, to think outside the box and perhaps introduce stuff which we wouldn't have been able to do before lockdown. So trying to take the positives out of something which is pretty crappy.
So there's a couple of questions on retention in the chat, so I will go to them because that's the next topic that we're going to pick up on. But I think there's an interesting one that builds on something you just said there, Casey, before we move on. Someone in the chat's asked, how do you encourage your new starters to take breaks, etc., especially at this time? Some of the new engineers in the team are keen to work in the evening, but we don't want to overwork them. And I think work fatigue is something that companies are fully aware of at the moment, but it's very hard to say to an engineer, look, we don't want you to work in the evenings. But I think what was interesting there when you were talking about families is not only are we talking about work fatigue, but also if you're doing a quiz a night, it probably means that you're spending another hour away from your family. So I think it's an interesting balance. But what are both your takes on the encouraging people to take breaks? And Mira, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I think it's been something that, especially with the early careers population, we want to instill from the get-go. I think there is a little bit of a feeling around needing to be at the laptop, wanting to make a good impression, being online all the time.
Yeah.
And I think from the start, we've done a little bit of training, and we've worked with our internal network, which is called DH Thrive, which just focuses on mental well-being. And they ran sessions with the group very early on, just to talk about triggers, symptoms, what burnout could look like, and really just explaining like how to look after your mental health. And with that came I guess good ways of like practicing like working and good kind of methods. So around taking breaks, using your diary to really manage your day, and around that making sure that you're putting in breaks, talking to your managers regularly. And I think we've also luckily for these grads, they also have a point of contact that brings their manager and HR together, so myself. So we've tried to instill that at the very beginning. But again, on your point around maybe like some engineers wanting to work a little bit later, I think we're probably coming to a point where that's absolutely fine. And I think we should be almost moving away from the standard 9 to 5. And if somebody does want to work a little bit later and potentially start their day a little bit later, why not, if that fits in with their kind of personal life and it works for them. I think it's probably time that we are able to kind of support colleagues through their own specific kind of circumstances rather than the typical 9 to 5.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Casey, what's your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. It's something which we actually not struggled with, but it was a problem we found when going around and running our EVP sessions, which is something I can talk about a little bit later on, and especially with I guess newer engineers. So the issue which we have is at the moment is a lot of our guys are consultants, so they're on kind of customer sites. So the workload can vary between different teams. So we've always, we've tried to champion a mental health first approach. So we use a company called Sanctus, which is really good. So we've had them come in a couple of times and deliver lunchtime talks for those who are involved in terms of, as Mira said, look out for those signs of, burning out, fatigue and stuff like that, because it's very hard, isn't it? You're sat on your sofa working, and then it's like, okay, where do I switch off? I'll just do another hour and stuff. And then we did find that meetings, are starting at 7 and 7:30. So we've trialed out blackouts. I can't tell you whether they're going to be successful or not, because we've only done them in small little teams and small squads, which has been good in terms of you turn off Slack and you don't do anything for an hour. We've been massively big on promoting diary management as well. So to actually get people into a habit of pre-booking their lunch out, so no one can book in a meeting. We're very, the great thing about when we weren't remotely, we're very open and say, stick some time in my diary and we can do something, and it's excellent. But that's actually that was causing some problems, because then all of a sudden, you'd look at certain people's diaries and they won't be having a break as well. We're partnered with Vitality as well, and we've just run a session with them. So if anyone's got them and their perks, they actually do something really cool where they come in and give everyone in the company kind of a reintroduction in terms of sort of the benefits. But again, just go over some really basic well-being kind of tips, and that helps. And it is going to be a problem. I'm not saying we're worried, but our kind of concern is that the first lockdown we had, we were approaching summer and spring months. So run cycles and stuff. Now pretty much it's dark at 4:30 wherever you are in the country and stuff. So that's something we're closely sort of monitoring. We're introducing a lot of the stuff we did in the first lockdown. Fitness ideas. We're running a football trivia stuff now on Thursdays, and encouraging people to talk about anything else from work if they want to come. But yes, it is an engineering problem, which we've felt with people wanting to prove they're right. So I can let people know whether the blackouts work, but I think that diary management is proved the most successful tool, alongside constantly educating people in terms of before you know it, let's nip it in the bud before something, bad does happen.
Yeah, I think that diary management is really interesting. I know from my own time, I am the worst at this. I looked at my diary yesterday and I've blocked myself out throughout the next 3 days. And now I'm like, oh, okay, when am I going to have lunch? When am I going to take a break? So I think that if people do look at diary management, that's something at least I'm going to take away from this webinar, that I need to block out time in my diary because it's important. I guess the next question, like I said, it builds on that retention piece, is that you can have the best talent team in the world, but if your attrition is really bad, you're fighting a losing battle, because you're always trying to fill the roles that have gone because the attrition isn't very good internally. So what techniques are you currently using to make sure that at least you're making that decision to leave as hard as possible? Casey, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure thing. So a great question. It's the $1 million question for a lot of organisations. Certainly, if in tech, where the average tenure for someone in the industry is I think it's around 17 months as the most. We introduced something about 2 years ago called Employee Value Proposition Workshops. So it all ties into, I guess, making the most out of your employer brand. And the key thing around this is collecting as much data as possible, but keeping it as human as possible. So in the simplest terms, so I don't ramble on, we as a company, in lockdown, out of lockdown, we'll get together with people biannually on a 1-to-1 basis or a 1-to-2 basis, and we'll ask some really nice open kind of questions. And it won't be a review in terms of a pay rise. It will be, what attracted you to Contino? How does it feel like to work here now? Did we match the expectations? All the good things. How would you describe it to your friends? That builds out the attraction data, which we need to promote the company. So we know we're promoting an accurate company rather than something which is a complete lie, which is a key thing which adds on to retention. So, isn't added to what the actual companies like to work at, then there's a higher chance of people then moving away. But most importantly, we ask some really some deep questions, which our senior leadership team were a little bit iffy at first. And it is in terms of, how are we engaging you? What can we do to engage you more? What frustrations are you currently having at the moment? And anything which we can do better as an organization. We collect that data over a 2 to 3 week period. It's brilliant because we're a consultancy, so it can feel, you can be on customer site. So the worry is with any consultancy business, or digital agency even, is that you don't actually feel part of your home company. So it's a great opportunity of bringing everyone together. But with this data, it gives us a great holistic view. It's a health check. We do it on ourselves and our bodies once a year to see how healthy we are. That's effectively what we're doing. So we have data, and then we can look at the trends. Transparent, and we report this back to the company as a whole. So we have monthly gatherings regionally, so US, UK, and Australia, and report back the results. And the main thing is we're reporting back obviously the great stuff. Yeah, we're excellent, but the thing which is going to improve us as an organisation and hopefully allow us to retain our staff is having a look at the actions in terms of putting our hands up and say, okay, right, 30% of you have said you're unhappy about this thing, and then we put that into action. And that is the key thing. There's no point doing that if you're literally going to carry on down the same path. And we may be fortunate that we get buy-in from our MDs and the CEOs and the founders of the company to do that, but we wouldn't have been able to kind of grow if we didn't keep hold of our engineers. So I think that's a very, very useful tool which is used to build out an attraction strategy, but more importantly, it's how you engage and retain your staff in the long run is being transparent, but gathering that data and then acting on it and going from there. So hopefully that made sense in a nutshell, Darren.
Yeah, no, it's good. Mira, what's your opinion?
We've actually recently at dunnhumby launched a recognition platform. So one of the pieces of feedback that I think we were getting from colleagues was, how can we share with others? How can we commend others? How can we praise others? And so now we have a platform where colleagues can go on, give kudos to other colleagues around a project that they've worked on, but all of those will align to our dunnhumby values. And ultimately, the kind of more kudos you get, rewards can come at the end of it, which is quite nice from a colleague perspective to share praise amongst others. And I think that that's kind of been one of the key areas for dunnhumby colleagues to feel like they want to be part of the business and stay ultimately. And I think some of the perks absolutely that we've got in the business, I think would hopefully make them want to stay as well. So early finish Fridays every Friday, which is nice. And I'd also say, I think we've had a really kind of active trend towards talking about mental health and the launch of a lot of employee-led networks. Yep. One of them being our multicultural diversity network. So I think it's also about being able to bring your best self to work, being able to share your experiences with other colleagues, and creating these networks to have like-minded kind of conversations with other colleagues. So again, another kind of part of being able to hopefully keep our talent and retain our talent, because yeah, like you said, we do so much work to get these colleagues into the business, but we want them to stay. So I think it's very much about creating a culture which works, obviously, for your company, and being able to maintain that.
So this is, and I know I speak to Casey here, but this is probably one of my favourite things, as someone said to me in 2020. Me and Casey were talking for the podcast that we did together, and one of the things you mentioned was that you shouldn't necessarily be scared of people leaving the business. It's understanding why people left the business and making sure that they had the best experience while they were with you, because then that means that you can kind of build on it, and then they'll talk to their friends about, look, I'm not working there anymore, but I had the best experience when I worked there. So I think that naturally people will leave your business. It shouldn't be something that you're necessarily scared of. But what you should be scared of is when they do leave, do they speak about you in the best way?
Yeah, it's free PR.
Exactly.
Market exactly is. It is obviously going to hurt. But if they are leaving to better their career, and we've had it recently. We've got a couple of great engineers who've been with us for 3.5 years, and are going into really senior positions, and it's great to see. And we'll leave on good terms. I saw one of the questions in there around, I guess, retention, and certainly within the technology sector as well. The biggest fear to date for everyone is becoming stagnated. So constantly offering people a chance to upskill, so learning and development, asking questions in terms of how they engage, how can we engage them more, will help them stay on. Well, you will get to the end of that cycle where someone naturally does want to move on, and providing you've done everything you can as an employer, you should that you've done a good job. We use it as part of our attractions strategy. We've, I don't know if I can say the brand, but we've had people move to some very well-known kind of companies, and we use that in our interview side of things, certainly for our more junior engineers coming on that say, in 2 years' time, there's no reason why you can't actually go on this journey. And we've tried to turn that around and look at it in a positive light. There's still coming from a recruiter background. There's still a part of you think, oh, I wish they stayed, but we've got to be realistic. It's our job as employers to provide the best employee experience from start to finish. And unfortunately, there will be come a finishing time at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And final topic, and this one is aimed mainly at you, Mira, but Casey, it'd be good to get your thoughts on it as well. So I think perceived in the market, in case you picked up on it earlier, is that in order for you to further your career, you need to be constantly moving. So average time in tech is about 17, 18 months. But from a early careers perspective, that must be an absolute killer for you, because you bring someone in, you train them up for 12 months, and then you know that maybe 12 months down the line, they're going to go. So what does dunnhumby do as a business, and your team in particular, to make sure that the graduates you bring on are staying way past that kind of 24-month period that is usually seen?
Yeah, firstly, our graduate programs are 18 months in length, so we just 1 month over the average 17 months, so win there. But what we want to do is, when we're sharing the kind of opportunity with students is, I guess, sharing with them that it's a fast track program into the business. So coming in with no experience, we will rotate you across the business. We will give you exposure. We'll give you training to ultimately, at the end of those 18 months, sit within one specific team, but be almost promoted to another, another grade, and really have a responsibility and autonomy from actually the beginning of the program. So that's one of the things that we've seen graduates really commend about the program, being able to get variety, but responsibility as well. And I think what's great about the program is really at the beginning, we can give a really good direction of where they'll ultimately end up.
Yes.
So from the beginning, they can see within 2 years, this is where I'll be, and within 5 years, this is where I'll be. And that's what I think is has also led to really good attrition numbers from the graduate program. So a lot of people who have come through have stayed with us. I also think it's probably going back to everything we've spoken about, culture, that probably has a big part to play in it, as well as the remuneration piece. I think it's having that overall employee experience that ultimately keeps them in the business. Yeah.
Makes sense. Casey, what's your opinion? You're looking at it from a more senior end, but you probably are facing the same problem.
And with different organisations which we've worked with, I love organisations who adapt a really open model to learning and development. There's nothing worse. You can be in any career feeling like you're pigeonholed. You can't go any further. I will keep banging on about it, but these EVPs, which companies, when they do run them and stuff, that's where you get your information in terms of how you can progress the people in your organization. They will give you the answers for you to react on, because it's quite easy, me saying, or big an organization saying, yeah, we give people £10,000 a year for an L&D budget. Not all organizations can kind of afford that. So it's being able to be kind of flexible, get an idea in terms of what your staff want, and then build the best process around that as well. Certainly, what I've noticed, I've seen some bigger organizations who we work with has adopted a far more agile way of working. So, stopping this rigid, you can only get promoted at Christmas and you need to do a year review to know how you're doing. Peer-to-peer feedback is brilliant. We adopted it about two and a bit years ago. I've seen large banks start to adopt it now, and all of a sudden that kind of retention rate, employee satisfaction is skyrocketed. Because of that, so yeah, I think that's one of the key things there. It isn't one size fits all, and I think that's kind of the message, because we all work for different size organisations, and everyone has different attributes and wants to aspire to be something else. But I think that encouraging people to continue to learn and giving them the best platform to do that is the way forward, I believe.
Nice. Well, I think we've basically got to the end. I'm mindful that if we do another question, we're going to go over. So I'll end the webinar now. Firstly, thank you for both of you attending. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it as much as I did. And Casey, lucky you're going tomorrow with that internet, because must be trying your patience today. But thanks again to all the attendees.
Yeah, apologies.
No worries at all. If you've got any questions to both Mira and Casey, shoot them across to hello@hackerjob.co. I'll make sure that they receive them, and then we can find a way to echo them back to the industry. Thanks again for your time, guys.
Thank you all.